Дэvид Robson leads one of the world's largest Mysore programs at Ashtanga Yoga Center of Toronto. Both practitioners and students of AYCT hold a sense of passion and commitment to the yoga practice, which stems from the respect that they share for one another.
Asana don't tell you anything about a practice. The practice is doing it every day over a period of time. And it's not just asana. Asana is our object of meditation in Ashtanga Yoga. So we use the practice of asana to focus, to concentrate on. And really that's what it is. It's a concentration exercise. We're trying to concentrate again and again and again, specifically on the mat for an hour and a half every day. And we try to build the concentration muscles so that we can concentrate off of the mat as well. The depth of the practice can't be seen in asana. Somebody that can do a back bend and grab onto their ankles isn't going to be further ahead in their practice than somebody who has trouble forward bending or is just, stiff. That doesn't make a difference. That's not what the practice is about. When we see somebody that does the practice really well, it's beautiful to see people do postures nicely, but really what's admirable about it is all the work that has gone into a practice.
Toronto Body Mind stopped by David's apartment, where he wakes every morning at 3 a.m. to do his practice. According to David, such a commitment to the practice is crucial to being a yoga teacher. David commits to the practice every morning in a small corner of his kitchen.
It's interesting for me to be a teacher. I mean, whatever that means too. Why is it interesting? I think the reason that we have such a strong Mysore program at our studio and is because we're all practitioners. I don't know how I got. My teacher said I could be a teacher, so that's why I'm a teacher. But really, I mean, we're all doing the same thing every morning, and I think that's what makes it authentic, because there's actually something happening there. There's not just exercise going on. People are coming in because we're cultivating something else. We're doing all these exercises that we were talking about. Concentration exercises, building equanimity, and then applying that to the rest of our lives. I just think it's really important. It's like being a parent. You can't ask your kids to do stuff that you're not willing to do. But I also think that's really common, telling students things that they don't do themselves. And I'm not trying to tell other people how to teach or not to teach, but I guess that's what I mean. I never know how honest to be, because what makes me a teacher, right? I think the reason that I'm the teacher is because I get up earlier than everybody else. I do my practice first. That's the only reason, probably. I do my practice first, and then I'm there to help them go through their practice.
David's family gets up at 5 a.m. every day to go to the studio. including 13-month-old Holden. This family dedication to yoga and to this particular lifestyle is quite evident, as each family member has an integral role in managing the well-being of the students and of the studio. Ashtanga Yoga Center of Toronto is a householder yoga studio that's been around for 3 years. With an average of 100 students coming to AYCT to share their practice every day, it's clear that David and his team have cultivated a center of inspiration and dedication. David explains the roots of Ashtanga Yoga.
Ashtanga Yoga is a type of hatha yoga, and it's characterized by vinyasa. The full name for it is Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. Vinyasa means moving breathing system. Poses are linked together with vinyasa, so we flow from pose to pose. There are 6 series to Ashtanga Yoga, and each series is set, so the sequence of postures is always the same. We practice Mysore style. Mysore is a city in South India where Ashtanga Yoga's main headquarters, Shala, is. Guruji, Sri K. Patabi Joyce, taught there for 7 years, and now his grandson, Sharat Joyce, teaches there now. Mysore style involves everybody practicing together in the room, but they're not practicing together. If you go to a class now at a yoga studio, just a regular class, hatha yoga, what you'll probably have is a teacher walking around and teaching everybody the same series of poses. Mysore style means that you're practicing the series as your teacher has given it to you, but the person beside you will be practicing their series as the teacher gave it to them. So people will be at different stage in the series, or they'll be practicing a totally different series. So there's all levels of practitioner in the same room practicing together. And that means also that the teacher keeps track of where you're at in your practice. So there's a one-on-one teaching relationship, which is sort of the best thing about Ashtanga Yoga.
This one-on-one teaching relationship, combined with the principles of Ashtanga Yoga, resonates deeply for many of David's students.
I think just the intensity of it really trickles into other aspects of your life. I mean, it's demanding to dedicate yourself to something 6 mornings a week, especially on mornings when you don't feel like it. But I find that those are the times when you learn the most about yourself. The days when it's hard to get here and you're sore and you don't really feel like practicing. That's when the most learning happens. Yeah. So.
But at the beginning, I couldn't even touch my toes. And incredibly, with the time, my friends started telling me, okay, why you don't practice 3 or 4 or 5 times a day? I said, no, 2 is more than enough. But now that I am practicing almost for 2.5 or 3 years every day, I can see the difference. I can touch my toes, I can do back bends, and every day is much better. It is so funny when you awake at morning, you feel so stiff. Then you start practicing. By the end of the practice, you feel so refreshed and happy, and all the day is yours. You can go and do whatever you want, but with a happy face, and the mood and the way that you react with people is much, much better.
Sometimes Ashtanga is criticized for being so physical. It seems very physical because there's all the leg behind the head. Sometimes Ashtanga is criticized for being a little boring too, because it's the same sequence of poses again and again and again. There's a reason that it's the same sequence of poses. It's not supposed to be exciting. It's like if you were building a table, say you had to build a table every morning, and you were going to build it for the next 10 years. At first, you're not going to be very good at building the table. But over time, you get quicker and better at it, and you'll get good at building a table. But in Ashtanga, it's always the same table. You're building the same table from day one that you're building 10 years down the road. It changes a little bit. You might be doing different poses, but really it's the same table. So it's not about what we're building. It's not about the poses. It's about doing it. It's about applying your attention to what it is that you're doing. Why is focus important? What is the concentration that we're building in our practice? Concentration in Ashtanga yoga is dharana. It's the sixth limb of Ashtanga. And it's like a muscle that we're always applying to our experience. And it's the concentration that lets us focus on a single thing, like a book or a task. But it's also the concentration that we just apply to our experience, the attentiveness. For me, it means being able to take a step back from everything that's going on. So it's not a narrowing of my attention, it's a broadening of my attention. When I do my practice every day, there's the focus that I'm applying in the asana, and there's the focus that I'm applying to my breath. And that's like a pinpoint type of focus. But then there's the focus that I apply to my day that lets me get on the mat. That's like a broader type of focus. It's like a focus that I apply to my life. And I think that is the type of focus that we're building really with our practice. I imagine when we're doing our practice and we're focusing on breath, focusing on the sensations, breath is a sensation, in the body, in the asana, then we're strengthening that same muscle that lets us build our lives to allow for more practice. Where that leads to is meditation. How that happens, there's different techniques, but when moments of concentration are strung together seamlessly, meditation happens. So you're applying your attention to whatever it is, to a relationship or to any sensation, and then you're letting it be as it is. That's equanimity, so non-reactiveness. When we do our practice on the mat, it's almost like you put yourself into a trance by doing this nice, calm, even breath. And so sensation comes up, like the feeling of a forward bend, or your hands on the floor, or your gaze towards your nose or your navel, and you just watch. You just try to create a dispassionate mind. And then again, that's what you're trying to carry outside into all your experience as well. So one half of it is being able to watch, and the other half is this sort of allowing it to happen, non-reactive state of mind, equanimity.
David's family applies this sense of focus and equanimity to running the studio.
I don't think I would have started doing yoga, though, on my own if it weren't for my father. So I'm very, very lucky in that sense that I have that resource, and it's so available to me. It's so accessible. I mean, I like to hang out with my friends sometimes, but I like the consistency of it and how it grounds you. And
I think especially the getting up early, it definitely shapes who you are, because you have to make all these choices in the rest of your life that change it. And I think because of all the energy that he spends in the room, he has to be really focused about the energy that he gives out in other parts of his life, and that makes him very focused about, I think, his giving out energy in his family life. I didn't think about it that way, but actually you're right. Guruji's family, they all worked together at the shala, and I think it's because of that. I think it's because of the practice. It makes you focus on your dharma, your family life, like your obligations to your family.
Working with David in the mornings, and usually it's just like a very teacher and student relationship, which is what it is. But sometimes when you get into the practice, you get into these really vulnerable positions, and like your feelings come up, your emotions. And just being with David, like it's very easy to be yourself. He's very loving in that way, where he doesn't judge. And it's hard to find people like that, where you can actually just try to be yourself.
Well, when I started practicing yoga, it was called Ashtanga, but in retrospect, I realized it wasn't traditional Ashtanga. It wasn't Ashtanga yoga, really. It was a looser approach. So I found out what sort of more true Ashtanga yoga was when I went to India. And I was introduced to the vinyasa system, that idea, which is counted breaths and set sequence of poses, no variations. And it took me about 5 trips to India to really understand that system. At first I thought Ashtanga yoga was just moving and breathing. And it was a set series of poses, but that you just kind of jumped around in between. As long as you moved with your breath, that was vinyasa. But after about 5 trips to India, I'm a slow learner, I started to figure out that it's actually very accurate. You're supposed to count all of your breaths. Every single breath is accounted for in that system. And when you do that, it pulls all your attention into your practice. So I guess my realization came as I built up in my practice towards it, because I couldn't just jump in and understand it right away. I think there's a value in following a system that is objective. So the vinyasa system of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, the idea of a certain movement and then this pose and then a certain movement and that pose, is static in a way. It's objective as in it exists independent of what I want to do. Me shaping myself into that system is what creates change. If I do whatever I want, or if I adapt that system to my own preference, then I'm going to strengthen the areas that I'm already strong in, or avoid the areas that I'm weak in. I'm just basically going to strengthen my own preferences. The practice, any meditation practice, that's what this is, should reveal our preferences. It should be a mirror that we're looking into that allows us to see ourselves, not an expression of myself. So I've found a lot of value in following the practice as it's been presented to me, as closely as I can. And it's interesting to see the parts that I don't follow or I didn't follow, because those are often the parts that I really needed to work on. I think it's unpopular in the West to follow this kind of tradition a lot of the time, because it's not very individualistic. And it can seem too conforming, too controlling or authoritarian. And that's interesting too. That's something that the practice is revealing as well. What are we really losing by following this system? It just strikes me that there's a lot of wisdom in the tradition as it's been passed down centuries, maybe even longer, thousands of years. And we would be missing out on that wisdom if we start interjecting our own opinions. What do I know about yoga? I'm 40 years old. I'm from the West. I'm just learning. it's difficult to talk about what the practice brings, because I feel like I'm still really doing it. I'm still on the path. You know, I can't tell you like where you get to, because I'm not there yet.